Greetings. Do I have a treat for you? Well, it's a treat or a torture, depending. This is a video that's almost 2 hours long, but if you're trying to get good at chess, it's a treat. It's solid gold, and I show you the things you need to do and the way you need to do them and what has to be done to achieve the goals that you're looking to achieve, especially with visualization and some other things that come up, certain types of problems and things of that nature. So it's all improv. I just do it live, and whatever happens, happens. Sometimes it's 54-0. Well, okay, one time today. It's never been 54-0 before today. So hopefully you'll see a lot of great things, and it'll give you lessons and will make you stronger as you see someone do it straight up in front of your face, and explain to you what's going on and how you can learn to do these things yourself, because that's really the key. There's a lot of people who can do what I've done, grandmasters can do better, but do they explain it to you in a way that helps you grasp it is the key. So hopefully they do, but if they don't, I do. So that's the most important thing. So hopefully you're ready to get a butt-kicking lesson. I mean, I'm in the butt-kicking business, and business is good, and this video will show you. So get something to drink and get ready to rock. I'll see you guys later. Welcome, future masters. Make sure you like the video. That'll help. Now, the reason you do these videos is so you can work on your visualization. That's how you get better. So when I tell you stuff like rook to b1 check, bishop to e1, or knight to d1, whatever, we're going to take two pieces and checkmate this guy. You need to see this visually and go through this process. Pause the video if you have to follow what I told you. This is going to help you improve your visualization in real games. So the knight d1 was the first one, and then second. So you look at the different parts of the position, try to figure out this one, queen takes bishop is checkmate. So I tell it to you, look at it, confirm that that's the case, the bishop is undefended except by the king, and then execute. Only a one mover. Same thing, so one move checkmate. Rook a1 checkmate. Here we got the knight blocking off the king for a back rank mate. So there you see it. Bingo. Double check. Game over. This is a whoops mate. Bam. So we just refer to this as whoops. This is another whoops. And another one. That's a double whoops right there. Okay, this is another whoops. It's a whoops, but it's not a whoops mate. It's a whoops, you lose your rook. Bad, this happened way back to me in the early 70s sometimes, when I was a kid. So, rook. Yeah, well, good luck, buddy. Oh, look, you're going to check me. I'll go king to g7 and protect my own rook. Okay. Well, you see this rook owns the g file. The knight owns h2, so if we can check this king, he's dead. Well, I have bishop checks. The only move he has is f3, so bishop takes f3 is mate. Bang. The old bump and score. So I'll explain this to you one time. The rest will be the same. Bump and score. We're going to bump this king back and checkmate him. I'm not going to go through the entire explanation on bump and score every time. This is a smothered mate. You see that? Smothered. This win, bishop takes pawn check, king takes bishop, queen takes queen. So this is a discovered attack with check winning a queen. I'm not going to go through the entire boring explanation. Oh, this is the same thing, except we don't want to take his queen with this discovered check. We're going to checkmate him after he goes queen to h5. This is what is known as a ladder mate. Sometimes the ladder runs with vertical, the ladder is placed vertical where the rook or queen moves are horizontal rungs. These are vertical rungs. We're going to check this guy here. So it's like moving a broomstick that's vertical. So this is a ladder mate. So when you hear the phrase ladder mate, you'll understand what it means. Okay, so, well, what to do with this guy? The problem he has is that we're going to shove this pawn, and he can't blockade it as he would like to with queen. He made a mistake, really. He should have moved his rook back because he already had his queen blockading the pawn. The queen cannot blockade this pawn and guard the rook. The queen is what is known as overloaded. Yeah, well, good luck with that, buddy. Okay. Now we can do two things. One's better than the other. This bishop attacks his bishop. It also attacks f7 by x-ray. So if we played knight takes pawn, bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop, we win a pawn. However, I'm far too greedy to win a pawn. I'm going to play bishop takes bishop, pawn takes bishop, and then knight forks because I'm going to remove the defender of the f7 square, which is the bishop. Removal of defender wins the exchange. Okay, now what? This guy, well, he's threatening f5 and then rook h4 checkmate. But I assure you that's not going to happen. I assure you. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen, but I'm guessing that f5a. Oh yeah, that won't work because I'll have bishop. I'm going to take his knight. And then if he plays f5, I'm going to play bishop to e3 check, and he's toast. Yeah, it's like a bishop to h6. You get it? Scram, chump. There we go. All right. Back on the road. Blam, blam. Good question. What does we do here? Well, we have rook takes pawn check, just clearance actually, not destruction. It is a sort of a destruction. Rook takes f7, bishop takes f7, queen to h6 check. A nasty move. And he could play, oh man, it's ugly as all get out for him. Goodbye, Charlie. Knight f6 check is just forces him to lose a queen. Okay. That had a lot of options, but we took care of it, no problem. Now, what do we have? Interesting. Well, We have a couple of things we could do. We have queen c1, king e2, knight d4 check. And geez, isn't that just mate? Queen checks, guards everything but e2 and f3, and this finishes the deal. It sure does. It's checkmate. The other one was queen to g2. Okay, look at this king. No, 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 no. So any check of this king is mate. Well, the only thing you can check him is rook takes pawn check or pawn to b5 checkmate. This is the old double knight mate. Look, this king cannot move from the c6 knight. If I can check him with the d5 knight, checkmate. I was going to win this rook, still checkmate. Now what, Bobby? He takes something from me, that jerk. Took my bishop. Got a lot of nerve taking my bishop. Well, let's see what we have here. Oh, that was probably some combination that this guy was thinking. Well, here's the problem he has. How many squares can his queen defend that bishop on? If you said 1, you'd be correct. He's on the only square he can defend the bishop. So, this is one of those pawn to g6. He cannot defend the bishop. There's nothing he can do except lose that bishop, and we'll be a piece up again. Queen takes free bishop. Well, free is a relative term. The question here is, though, what happens afterwards? I don't know. I don't worry about it. So my gut reaction is rook e8, rook takes, rook takes. What the heck does that do? I don't know. Followed by maybe knight e7. Oh, no. That's a stupid move. Rook e8's wrong. Rook takes f7, rook takes f7. I mean, king takes f7. And then rook forks on e7. Rook takes f7. Bishop takes on c6. We'd play pawn takes, attacking the knight, and our rook is still alive. So if he takes our rook, we play pawn takes knight. So you got to I had to look at both versions of the capture. Okay. Well, that's very interesting. Okay, well, we can't let him take our pawn. That's fairly obvious. So a4. And the problem he's got is that knights have a really, really hard time stopping rook pawns. So we just keep doing this. Well, he's going to play that. Oh, it's okay. Doesn't matter. a7, you can take my rook, but you don't get my queen. So his knight could not stop the pawn. Okay, this is what I call the hesitation check. You'll never see this referred to by this phrase anywhere else. And you're like, what's the hesitation check? You either check him or you don't. Well, I'm going to check him to check him at another place. I'm not checking him here this is not a direct value. I'd like to play this check, but that queen takes my queen, so that doesn't work. The hesitation check is I want to check him here so I can force his queen to e2 and then check him on the back rank on b1 and then win his queen. So this is the hesitation check. As you can see, it's a killer. Now queen takes rook. Oh, I'm sorry. I was incorrect. As my father would say, queen takes free rook, check. So not only is this queen takes free rook one of my dad's specialties, it's with check. So queen takes free rook with check, and you can cram it sideways, Charlie. Skewered that queen and king. Thank you. But that my mistake was forgetting to mention that it was with check. So, now what is this freak doing? Good question. Okay. Well, first thing is he's trying to take, oh, I see, look at this guy. Ah, I got it. I got it. Yes. Look at this beauty. All right. I have pawn takes queen if I can get rid of this rook, and trust me, I'm gonna get rid of this rook. Look at this possibility here. Check. Where is he going? Is he gonna go there? Check. Check again with the queen. Pretty good. Where is he going? Is the question. The answer is not going anywhere special. Goodbye, rook. This check is goodbye, rook. Oh man, that guy's gonna queen, no question. What does we do about it? Not much is the answer. Geez, what are we doing with this guy? That check doesn't mean anything, really. What the heck? How is this some 1500 problem? Well, the answer, bang, queen, queen. He can't, well, he can check me. Queen to here check would be mate. The problem is getting there. I don't know. I don't know, man. You're asking for some, asking for trouble. This is some crazy stuff. This is not 1500 business. What about king to here? It's not so much, well, actually, you know what? I'm just going to queen this guy. I queen, you take this, I go here. What are you going to do, Bobby? Those moves on Black's part were horrible. He should have queened his pawn instead of jacking around. Absolutely horrible. Now this is the kind of reversed Legal's mate, which is a trap from the Philidor defense, except that White is the one who executes this when Black plays bishop takes queen. It's bishop takes pawn check, king e2, knight d4 mate. So this is a reverse of a classic trap. Hey, look, we got a pinned knight. Well, we've got a pawn that's pinned, trying to protect this knight. Queen takes knight, pawn takes queen, rook takes queen. Thanks for the free knight, buddy. Queen takes free knight is what my dad would say. So now we just go back here, get the queen out of danger. Come over, chump. All right, now what? This just wins, right? Queen checks, queen takes, pawn takes, king king to here and winning. Stops his only threat. Okay. Well, you see what happens when we check this guy. We're going to eat this pawn, we're going to eat this pawn, and then we're going to take his queen. Because that queen is blocking every square that his king would run away to. Okay. Da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. We can play pawn takes knight, right? Yeah, pawn takes knight, pawn takes knight. I mean, pawn takes knight, pawn takes pawn. He thinks he's got this killer thing, and I'm just going to check him and take his g-pawn. You're screwed, buddy. Got a great idea, too bad it failed. Now, good question. Pawn takes, right? Yes, and then I play king to e4, catching the pawn and getting a square. So he's got a 5x5 square. My king is just outside of it. But I take this, get in his square. He's going to have this. This has been now transferred to endgame where black has what is known as the distant pass pawn. This H pawn is distant from the main other grouping of pawns. My king is going to hold these. I'm going to eat this one like Pac-Man. He's got to take this one. He's way behind. So I'm going to eat this one, get to the shepherd square, which is B2, and then cash this. Shepherd square, which means he cannot stop this pawn from being shepherded to queen. So however long that was, you know, sequentially. Okay, I don't get it. This is just destruction. I don't know if you see what the deal is here. Look at these moves we could play. You have a bunch of good moves. Bishop takes knight. Queen takes bishop. Queen to f7 is mating. I'll take mating. So, okay. Well, I don't know, Davey. Knight takes f5 check, just forks king and rook. I mean, when you're in a 2 rooks and knight versus 2 rooks and a bishop, a win of an exchange is pretty devastating unless you can checkmate this guy, which could happen. Let's go look at rook to g1 check. Because notice his king, when I rook check him with here on g1, that takes this escape square. So it's no, 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 yes, rook checks on g2, king h1, rook checks, rook goes back, rook takes his mate. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 7 mover. It's not a big deal. You should be able to follow this mentally. This is the visualization I'm talking about. The 7 move visualization. And this one's not too difficult. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there you go. 7 is the checkmate. Okay. Now, this is another example of king and pawn endgames. You're like, but there's rooks. Yeah, we're going to trade the rooks off. Rook takes rook. King takes rook. And then we get to king and pawn endgames. And then, like I tell people in my other videos, I'm a master and then some on king and pawn endgames. So what happens is we're going to go and play king g6, king h5, working to the shepherd square, which is h2. This is the target square that we want to get to with our king eventually. So, goodbye, rook. But when you know what you're doing, now he did stop me from reaching my target square. However, there's something that I know that you need to know, and that is king to here, king to g4. This position is a forced win. So this is a fundamental that you need to know in king and pawn endgames. This is a forced winning position, and you need to work on this and look at it yourself and understand the position and how to do it. I have videos on it, so it's no big deal. You can look at that later. So he did stop my goal of going to the shepherd square. However, he walked into a known one position for black. So king g4, he lost. I don't know. Let's see how many moves. I played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Move number 9 is the winner. And when you get to a position where it's a known win, you don't have to calculate. It's like saying 2 plus 2 is 4. You don't really calculate that anymore. Now, when you're in first and second grade, you would. But once you understand and master the concept of 2 plus 2 equals 4, you don't calculate that. You just execute. And that's what we're doing in chess here is we're executing. Okay. Now what? Bishop takes crud. I was thinking we had bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop, bishop to b5, which we might. Because his bishop is weak. It's undefended on d4, so he'd have to move to defend it. Bishop to b5, eh? Got to think about this for a second. Not obvious. So this one is about a 2000 level problem. The problem we have is that our e4 knight is pinned. My throat was dry, so I'm going to get this drink. Oh, all right, now. Well, yeah, bishop b5 cannot go immediately. You have to take the knight. So bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop, bishop to b5. He can no longer pin our knight, which is very useful. But he can play like b5 to guard his bishop, right? I'm sorry, not idiot. I don't even know why I said that. Queen to c5. Isn't that the only square he can defend that bishop? The d4 bishop is the only square he can defend it. I guess he technically could defend it, from c4. So here's the sequence, but I'm going to win his queen if he does that. Bishop takes knight on d4. I like to use bishop takes knight because it's easier to visualize in your brain than saying bishop takes d4, bishop takes d4, etc. So bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop, bishop to b5, queen to c5. You could go to b6. Yes, he could go to b6. I would hit him with knight to a4 and then queen takes bishop. Okay, so he can go queen to c5, b4, and that's it, dude. You don't got jack. Yes. If he plays queen to b6 and I play knight to a4, he could play queen takes b5, which is my bishop, but I'd have knight d6. Since the bishop no longer guards d6, knight d6 check wins his queen. Goodbye. It's a little complicated, but you'll see. There you go. crunch. It was the fact that his queen was inconvenienced. Oh man, I say it so many times. Knight on the 5th rank, F pawn weakness. Queen to the 5th rank is just almost always devastation. Because there's no reason to trade, because he's not going to take with the king, he'll take with the rook. So we could wreck his pawn structure. He's going to take this with check. Not today, my brother. Oh, you're going to be tough, eh? Well, we could check him. We have two options. We have queen f2 check, which does seem fairly nasty. Probably winning. Or we have knight to g3 check, which I don't care for knight to g3 because it doesn't really do anything. He just plays pawn takes knight and his queen defends his rook. So queen checks here, cuts through all this garbage. He has only one square, that's king to d3. And if he only has one square when you're checking him on an attack, my rule is that you're winning. King d3, knight c5. And checkmate. Looks like checkmate to me. Fortunately, it was checkmate. Now, this is a different concept that I mention sometimes when it comes up, like this time. We can set up an unstoppable mate in the corner with rook to d1, okay? So visualize this for a second. That means we're going to play rook or queen to h1 mate. But here's what you have to understand. Now, in this problem, we have the unfair advantage of knowing that we're supposed to win. In a tournament game, you don't have that. A black to play and win. I mean, you might, but it's not broadcast. This basically says in giant letters above the screen, black to play and win. So we don't have that in real games. So what we have to do is approach it from the way I'm going to tell you how to approach this. We're going to set up unstoppable checkmate. And then we have to analyze, and this is what you'll see master players, in tournaments do. They'll be sitting there like you're like a sphinx. You're like, what are you doing? You're like, you can't ask him because he's busy playing a game. It's ridiculous, right? So you'd be thinking this. It's like, okay, I'm setting up rook d1, which looks like it just crushes. Then he has to calculate what kind of reprisal can he produce against my king. Check, whatever. So if I go rook to d1, he could play queen to c4 check. I can respond to that with knight to d5. And after that, he doesn't have another check except for rook g7 or rook to f5, which is queen takes free rook. So that's really what you have to look at. It looks to me like this is completely winning, because now this is a somewhat artificial type of a problem. There it is, and there it is. There it is, just as I told you. But that's what you have to do. You have to say, okay, can I withstand the reprisal? Which I could. I saw all the moves. Usually they're much more difficult than that. So that was the way you look at it. It's like I set up this unstoppable threat, whatever it is, and then I have to analyze to see if it's really unstoppable. By reasonable means. You don't want to leave this guy with some brilliant combination that he's going to destroy you. Unless you're dead lost otherwise. Then you can do whatever you want. When your position is dead lost, you can do any crazy moves you want and set up any kind of crazy trap, checkmate, or whatever, because if you don't do it, you're still going to lose anyway. So you haven't lost anything. Once you've got a lost position, you're dead. So my thinking here was obviously queen a3 check. All right, let's put this on the I'm going to help you with a little visualization here. I don't do this in games myself or whatever problems, except for illustration like this for you guys, because it's a kind of a crutch. Just do it mentally. Queen A3, check. Now, he can play D6, and I clearly cannot play queen takes D6 because he just takes my queen with his rook. However, I do have E takes D6, which is not good. Check, because it allows his king to escape F6. This pawn prevents him from escaping, so I don't want to use this pawn. So I'm going to check him. He can play this, the only move really, and then I'm going to get him with queen to A7 check. It's basic stuff, but I want to explain. Like I said, he can play D6. We don't take it because he'd just go king here and run away. So this stuff is fairly basic, but there was a little more to it that would help you for future games. What's the biggest mistake you could play here? Well, in reasonable moves, pawn takes pawn. Bishop takes pawn and you lose. It's game over. Your only chance is F6, F7, and F8. He can queen, but I'm going to queen check and stop this jerk. Let's see. F7, he'll go to, I just go 7, 6, even though it's a 3. It's like the 6 tells you how close he is to queening. So it's 7, 6, queen, 7. And then I can go check. He can go there, and I can go queen in front of the pawn. Man, it's ugly, but, you know, it works. Unless I'm checkmating this guy. Oh, no, I'm checking and winning his pawn is what I'm doing. Sorry. Well. Wait a second. No. I don't know. What am I doing here is a good question. Oh, this is a classic trap. This is how you would win this if it was a, you know, king and pawn endgame. The bishop does nothing except own the queening square. He's worthless. This is my dad's rule. Another genius rule that my dad came up with. He actually came up with it as a taunt. He's like, you got the white square bishop. I'm just going to go in the dark squares. Turns out that's actually a genius. It was actually a genius concept. King F2, I'm going to checkmate him, no matter, unless he breaks a knight. Okay, if he makes a queen, you checkmate him. Okay, now what? We could fork him with queen takes B2 and just make sure that he doesn't have a reprisal against this bishop. Bishop F5 is a nasty move. That would be check, and so what? You're losing. So we cannot allow, it looks like we cannot allow bishop to F5, to be honest. We have to play F5 ourselves. Or do we? This is really hideous. Yeah, we're in the 2200 plus range. You got to start playing some real chess. So that's the problem. This is what my dad's rule. What's he trying to do to me? Bishop to F5, unstoppable. Well, it's not unstoppable, but it's just about unstoppable. I guess you can play H6. So I guess we can do this. Takes, bishop F5, H6. Man, is that ugly. But it works. I guess this is fine. It's ugly as all get out. Okay. I don't know, just go here. Man, sometimes it's kind of scary. Now we have what? Interesting, bishop to F5. crisscrossing his position. King to d2, the most dangerous move would be queen to f2 check, and he could pretty much say goodnight, right? We're 2 pieces down, so you can't get too greedy or too overconfident. We're 2 pieces down, but this rook is worthless, and this knight is basically worthless. It's not doing anything. So basically, we're fighting him queen in 2 pieces versus 2 pieces. This queen's out of position. So realistically, when I saw the lesson from Grandmaster Igor Smirnov, his explanation was that really we're fighting 3 pieces against 2, the 2 bishops. So we have right now temporarily we have an immaterial advantage, even though we're down 2 pieces. Those 2 pieces are down over here, and this queen's out of position. So we get this bishop check. This is key because the bishop does nothing and now it does something. So bishop checks. What if he goes to b2? Well, we'd have rook to b1, right? That's nasty. The description that I've seen before, it really applies. A bishop to f5 check. Obvious and good. Sometimes obvious isn't good, but sometimes it's obvious and good. Well, if this move doesn't work, we're screwed. So we take this is just absolute queen takes knight is checkmate, as you see. So, like Igor said, we had the advantage. That's a dumb move. I can just go knight e2 check and take his queen. Oh, he's gonna take my what do you call it? Yeah, whatever, bro. I can do the fork take his queen. He can play bishop takes my queen. And actually that does just break even. What a jerk. However, maybe I have a better move. Good question. Let's look at this briefly. It's actually not too bad. I guess he has a problem. No, it's 92 check. I think this is desperado time. 92 check. King to, let's just say, to be safe, king h1. Knight takes queen, bishop takes queen. And I don't take his bishop and he takes my knight. I play knight takes f5. And now he can either remove his bishop from damage or he can take my knight. If he takes my knight, I take his bishop. So basically, I'm going to check him out. I'll take his queen. He takes my queen. I take his knight. And he's got a problem. Because he can take my knight, but then I take his bishop and I win a piece. And if he moves his bishop away, then I move my knight away to knight to d6. So he loses. It's a desperado. And I use the finger counting trick to do it. Count the fingers on one hand for your captures, use the other hand for the other guy's captures. And actually in tournaments I do this. I stick it under the table and just make sure that when I've gone through all this mental stuff and I say all of what I've said in my head silently, I go and pull my fingers out and go, 3 against 2, you lose. Check. Okay, here's piece number 1. Got piece number 1. Here's piece number 2. Okay, well now we'll get out of here with you retreat his bishop. I retreat my rook, in this case, not the knight. Same difference. I remove the knight. I remove the threat of pawn takes knight. That's the correct phrasing. Well, oh, dude, that's kind of nasty, but not quite. It's almost nasty. So, oh, and 44 in a row is very good, but that's not my record. But it's really good. I mean, I'm not saying that isn't great. It's really good. My obvious move is queen to c3, but is it good? You know, sometimes obvious is not good, and sometimes it is. Let's see. I'm thinking. Okay. What about queen to c3? He only has one move. Well, make it two moves. King d7 and king to b6. I don't see that b6. You know, I don't know. Whatever. I don't know, man. King d7. I would really like to do some kind of skewering trick garbage. It's really bogus, man. I'm telling you, I don't have any great moves. It's a real head scratcher, dude. I don't have anything spectacular. I don't have a move where I can attack this king. Oh, queen c3 check. I think king to b6 loses to bishop takes c7. Yeah, that's checkmate, actually. So he can only go king to d7, all right? This is the dealio. Look at this. Again, I don't normally do this, but this is for your help. Here, we gain a double attack on c7. And now, remember what I said, when he only has one move, or the full phrase, when he only has one good move that doesn't lose, you're probably winning. So queen c3 check was my gut reaction, just trying to fork this bishop, which doesn't do anything because it's guarded. Anyway, this bishop rakes across these light squares. The queen covers this. So he has b6, bishop owns this, and d7. Like I said, if king goes to here, bishop checks because everything is owned. That's a checkmate. So he's got this. We hit him again with queen c7 check. Where does he go now? He only has e8. Queen takes c7. He only has queen, king to e8. Now that's the question. What happens after king to e8? Possibly bishop to c4. But no, because that's checkmate. See, he's got, this is another thing. This is my dad's rule. What's he trying to do to me? Well, one of the things he's trying to do, if I move this bishop out of the way, he's threatening potential check and possible checkmate. Unless I do this with check, it's fine. I could check him here, but then what? Doesn't really do anything, does it? It's very complicated. Oh, I guess I could just play bishop to d6. Queen to c3 check is good. Now, this is one of these very difficult position. So we're going to go through some of these moves and, close in on the final position to get further through the chain so we don't have to calculate and remember all of this visualization, which is obviously winning. This stuff is obviously winning. So yes, my thinking is that bishop d6, the move I saw kind of at the edge of the fog, I'd love to check him, but he's just going to take it, so that's not going to happen. So if I play bishop, the thing about bishop to d6 is an interference move. It blocks him from playing his key defensive move is this move right here. And this is one of the things that separates the men from the boys is the ability to spot the opponent's key defensive moves and then hopefully do something about it. I think bishop to d6 does something about it big time. He does have this. Sorry, he doesn't have that move. Yes, his problem is that I'm going to hit him with bishop to b5 check if he lets this go. And he lets it go because he has no choice. And now, yeah, that would just win his rook. Bishop checks, bishop c6, pawn takes, queen takes, king to d8, queen takes check. I emerge a bishop up in a comfortably winning position. I'm not going to checkmate this guy. Just don't have all the dudes to do that. But we'll end up the endgame from an exchange down to a bishop up. Pretty awesome, right? So, you checked me, you freak. Well, seems, oh, this is the king and pawn endgame again. This is the thing, and I'm going to explain it to you a little better. As I told you, I'm a master and then some on king and pawn endgames. The thing is, I've done so much work and powered up my king and pawn endgames to the point where I'm always looking to go to the king and pawn endgame because my visualization and my study and preparation gives me powers to see much further than normal players. So queen f2 check. He takes my queen. I'm going to take his h pawn and then go back, eventually get back to the g2 shepherd square and cash this h pawn in. So this is toast. I'm not going to calculate. I don't have to calculate this in general. This is a positional understanding that we're going through. Now the trick is not to go to the shepherd square immediately because he cuts across and gets to the pawn. This is a basketball move where I'm going to box this guy out. I'm going to assume what is known as the opposition because it makes him have to go around my force field. It's like your king has a little force field. Really, the game is over when I played this move. Now, shepherd square, it's over. But that was an easy victory. And you might be saying, well, easy for you. Well, yeah, do the work. It's easy for you. Now, rook takes rook. King h2, bishop e5 check. Yeah, that's cool. He could play f4, doesn't matter, just take it. But he would play essentially at some point g3. Then knight takes, check, could go to there. I don't know. Well, I've got to do rook takes rook check. King to here. And I got to figure out if that's the right move. Bishop check looks like the right move. Man. Oh, that's nasty. Yes, I got him. Bishop checks. G3. Rook f2 check. King to g1 to attack my rook. Knight takes h3, guarding the rook. And it's check. So bishop, pawn goes forward. Rook checks. He could go in the corner, I guess. It doesn't really matter to me. If he goes in the corner, then I just go probably knight here, and that's Arabian mate forced. No, it's not. I can't do that. Oh, yeah, I can. With my rook here, I sure can. So, yeah, whatever, broski. We're checkmating this chump. Scram, chump. You're getting checkmated, my brother. Now, finish him. Bishop to here is unstoppable. Well, okay, it's not unstoppable. He can play queen to g2. We can't check him here with the rook because he just goes king to here. The old forko. This is unstoppable mate. Bishop takes g3. But, you know, just like I told you, but when I played in those tournaments, I would see those masters sitting there and analyzing what looks to be obvious stuff, because it's not that they don't see it. They just don't want to make this, a hasty decision. It was every player who's ever played chess has made a hasty decision that lost a game that they were winning. And if they say they're not, they're lying or they just started. Okay. Ouch. Well, the reason I say ouch is that, 47, that's the new record of unbeaten problems, okay? That's my new record, or tied it, one of the two. I don't know. The record is 47, all right? I know it's not 48. That's how I know it's 47. So either I tied it, or that's the new record. I want to play knight b4, but he just plays queen a4 check, and I got to go right back, so on that. That doesn't do it, because that would win that bishop. And I don't have any other move. I don't have another move that will interpose. So the other thing I want to do is, I have no idea, really. This is a toughie. I mean, to be honest, if someone said, hey, you can have either side of this position, I'm thinking white is doing great, okay? I'm thinking white is winning here. It sure looks good, you know. I think white is doing great, but I don't know. What about, well, the only thing that sticks out to me, well, knight b4, which is no good, is knight to d4. Knight to d4. And see, knight to d4, queen to a4 check is no good, because we can play b5. I'm sorry. Oh man, knight to b4 is queen to a4 is not check. That queen to a4 is normally check. I'm on f8. Idiot. I'm playing knight to b4. It's just winning a piece. I don't know. This is man, I was hallucinating that, he was going to check my king. What the heck is wrong with me? I'm going to take that bishop, brother. You can bank on it. Scram, Charlie. Yeah, queen to b3. What does that do? Really, I don't know. I guess going to do this. Yeah, well, good luck with that. Don't I just play like knight to c5? Or to be honest, I could play knight to f2. I don't like it. I don't like, overextending this. Knight to c5. Oh, dude, that's a jerk. No, that's good. Yeah, knight to c5, queen to b4, getting out of the danger and still threatening my queen. But I play queen to e7. And I am just extricating myself. He's attacking my, what do you call it? He's attacking my g4 knight is in danger from potential g3. It's really risky. I don't like to play knight takes f2. Knight g takes f2. You're kind of asking for it. I'd rather solve this problem of the d3 knight by moving the d3 knight safely to knight to c5, queen to b4, queen to e7. But that does open us up. I guess it's okay. It's not great. I'd rather do that, but he's got that h3, which is really annoying. What do I do with h3? Oh, knight takes f2 is what I would do with that. Okay, here's the sequence. Knight c5, queen b4, queen e7, h3. Knight takes f2. He can't play king takes because knight to e4 check, discovered attack against his queen. So knight c5, rook takes rook, knight takes queen, rook takes queen, rook takes rook check, king takes, he takes that back. So he's got rook, knight, and bishop, and I have knight, bishop, and rook. That can't be right. No, this knight's still alive. Two knights. I have two knights, rook and bishop. And he still has that h3 trash, which I don't like, but he might be okay. Oh, yeah, it's still, I don't know. Knight c5. Well, like I said, it's either that or knight g takes f2. Really don't want to play that. Knight c5, rook takes queen, knight takes queen. Rook takes rook check, king takes, pawn takes knight. Oh, that's fine. I just move out of the way. It's no big deal. Yes. Oh, no, I do lose that. That's right, I lose that. That's okay. What is happening? How am I losing it? Oh, I'm losing that piece is what I'm doing. Well, knight c5 is terrible. I give the piece back. I want to play knight gf2, but, you know, knight c5 lost a piece. That made it real simple, man. Oh, geez, I hate this guy. What are we doing? Well, got a couple of ideas here. We have 48's the new record, by the way. Kind of have a couple of ideas. Rook h1 check, and this could happen at any time if this is not the right first move. We also have bishop takes, so combined with queen to c3. So really I have three moves that I think have to be juggled in the proper sequences. Queen c3 with, you know, queen takes c4. Preferably with check if I can get it, because I am greedy. I don't like, the problem is I don't like not checking him, because then he has bishop takes bishop check, and queen to g7 is nastola. So I don't like that at all. That's kind of why I think bishop takes bishop is really powerful. He's just got a nasty position. If we allow bishop takes e7 check, we are in mega trouble. You take the bishop, queen g7, your rook's gone. Now we do have, again, queen c3. Where can he go? He can block with the rook. Not bad, I guess. Maybe we want to stop that. We might want to stop the rook blockage is the key, which would be like rook h1, king e2, queen checks. Now he's got a problem. Or on his rook twice. You know, rook to here, queen takes check. It's fairly nasty. So check. He goes king to d2. Well, I would just play rook takes rook check. No, king to d2. I'd just play queen to c3 check is what I would do. and then I'd moida him. So, yeah, this rook check's nasty. He's got bishop to c1, though. I don't like that move. Whatever, dude. Kind of a toughie. So we got rook checks, king, bishop f1, queen c3 check. Problem he runs into is queen to e3 is mating. Once his bishop is back here, so he's got a problem. So rook h1 check, bishop to f1, queen c3 check. He can play rook to d2, blocking it. However, well, let me show you what happens here. I can deflect his king with rook takes bishop, but it's not check. King takes rook, queen takes rook. The problem is, since it's not check, he'd hammer me with bishop takes bishop. So rook h1, bishop f1, queen checks, rook to d2. I also have, and rook to d2, I can play bishop takes. He can play knight takes, which is all good, but he's threatening to checkmate me. Or I can play, so I still can't, bishop takes bishop, knight takes bishop. I still can't play rook takes bishop because he's got checkmate. But we can hit this guy with or without bishop takes bishop. We can hit this guy with rook h1, going through the whole sequence again. Bishop f1, queen c3 check, rook d2, queen e3 check. Now, he is getting problems. His bishop can't move, it's on f1. He can play queen to e2, which is all good. I'm sorry, no, wait a second. You're on e2. You're just checkmated again. No, I'm sorry. Rook d2, I checked him. He's not. He can play queen to e2. Queen to e2 is very playable. No problems. But if we do that, we win his knight. Okay, so rook h1 check, bishop f1, queen c3 check, rook d2, queen e3 check, queen e2. He loses his knight. We'd hit him with queen takes e2 check, and I don't care. King takes is fine. He's not moving anywhere. King takes free knight. And so we end up with one bishop. What are we? Our position is we are 2 pieces down. We better checkmate this guy. I don't win a damn piece. Check, queen to here. What if we go here? Good question. He's already played rook d2. He's sealed. He's tombed himself. He's entombed himself. Pardon me. I have queen to g3 check. I don't know that does anything really. We could play. Hard to say. Man, this is tough. Rook h1 check is not looking that great, to be honest with you. King f1, rook bishop f1, queen c3, rook to d2, queen to e3, queen to e2. He's got adequate defenders there. I don't have that killer move, unfortunately. I don't like any of that. Now what if I just go queen c3 check first? Seems legit. Dude, I don't know, man. This is really a pain. This is why you'll see masters sitting there for sometimes 15 minutes or 20 minutes in a critical position, trying to figure out what to do. What's the sequence? Check. Rook to d2. Well, we could do bishop takes, knight takes. He's threatening to checkmate me, so I can't do that. Queen to e3 check is terrible. Man, that bishop is a freak. Well, I wonder about queen c3 check, rook d2, queen e3 check, rook to e2. Or you could play bishop to e2 actually. But I think that bishop e2 actually is a checkmate because of rook to h1, so that doesn't work. Queen e3 check, rook to e2, again that's checkmate. So he's got problems. Queen to c3 check looks like the move because of all the problems he has with checkmates when he blocks the square. Queen to c3 check. He basically has, what, 3 moves? Well, he's got rook up or king to one of 3 squares. F2 is probably, E2 and F2 are probably equally bad. King to F1. It just looks like check. Rook checks, king E1. That was not even possible. That's just checkmate. Well, oh, I'm sorry, it's not checkmate. Pretty close. Oh, actually it is. Queen C3 check, king F1, rook H1, king F2, queen E3 is mate. This is where visualization, solves the problem. So queen C3 check, king F1 is checkmate. King F2, queen E3 check, again checkmate. Yeah, king F1, he gets checkmated again. So king F2 is checkmate. Queen C3, king to E2, queen to E3 check. King to F1 is also check. The only move he has against queen C3 is rook to D2. All of the 3 king moves are checkmated. Awesome. So, rook to D2 is forced. So we do have another possible move that might be strong with queen to E3 check. Queen C3 check, rook D2 is forced, but it might be forced and good. Let's see, king 2, then we can go rook to F1. Rook to H1 check. If he goes bishop back, rook takes, bishop, king takes, queen takes, rook. It's not really doing anything. I'm trying to get around this guy and figure out where I'm going. I was hoping to inconvenience this guy. Queen C3, rook D2. Queen, queen E3. Man, it's really good. It's just not good enough. Queen to A1. He just goes back there, which wouldn't be bad if that was the best he could do. I just don't think that is. I think he just goes king F2. Queen C3, rook D2 is the move for sure. We can win. We can win a bishop. Hooray. We can win a bishop. Whatever, dude. We can give up rook for rook and bishop. That's good, but not today. Check, rook d2, yeah. Don't have a better move. Check again. That queen to e2 is really annoying. Although, actually, it's not. Is it? He might have an inconvenience here. Let's see. Queen c3, rook d2. Yeah, I was thinking that queen to g3 after queen to e2, queen to g3 check, he could play queen to f2. Man, I just don't have a good move for that. Rook takes bishop, king takes. It's just queen to g3 check, queen to f2. Or, I was had queen to g1, double aligning, but he's got king on e1 and queen on e2 is guarding his bishop. Can't make him move into a bad location. I mean, it is sort of bad. Queen c3, rook d2, rook checks on h1, bishop f1. It's like there's some in-between type move I'm missing. I don't know. Queen c3, rook d2, rook h1, bishop to f1. It would be nasty if I could do it. I just can't do that. Bishop takes, bishop. I mean, king takes. I can play king takes knight, bishop takes, king takes. He's got too many pawns. I mean, he's got a bad position, but he'll unscramble. That's the problem. It's the unscrambling that's killing me. Well, what if we go queen checks on c3, rook d2, bishop takes, bishop, knight takes, bishop, threatening the checkmate. Well, I don't know. Let's queen c3 check, rook d2, rook h1 check, bishop f1, and then just play. Beats the heck out of me. Bishop to f1. We can take him, go to there. Queen takes rook. I just don't think it's that great. He's going to hammer us into the Stone Age. What am I missing is the question. I don't know, man. Check, I don't know. Rook to d2 is the killer move. He has to play it. And then queen takes c4. I just don't think that's it. Well, maybe it's queen to e3 check first, idiot. Queen c3 check, rook d2. Not rook checks, but queen to e3 check to force him. This is the hesitation check idea, but in reverse, where it's the hesitation defense, and his defense is horrible. He can't play queen to e2 because of rook check on h1, because it blocks his bishop. If he goes bishop back, to e2 after the e3 check, then we hit him with check again. Yeah, the bishop to e2 or move is what I would like to know. Anything on e2 is bad. Well, anything on e2 that's not followed, or that doesn't follow bishop f1. Bishop f1 is the key move that he needs to make, but we're not going to let him make that move. Queen c3 check, rook d2, the only move that doesn't lose. The other three we saw were checkmates. Rook d2, queen e3 check. If he goes back here, king d1, boom, check wins. If he goes something on e2, rook wins. If he goes king to f1, rook wins. Rook wins. This just rook check should win. Correct? Bishop take back, and then, yeah, that's it. Dude, this was super hard. I don't know how long it was. You guys could tell me, but it was super difficult. About 2,600. How many moves was this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 7 mover. That's 49. That's the new record. Okay, we are officially on fire. Now, you know, the thing is, rook captures bishop is the obvious move. Queen takes rook, rook d1. Followed by, you know, potentially several things. The other possibility we have is knight to b5, hitting that bishop and queen, which is potentially useful. I mean, that e-pawn being pinned is awesome because knight takes bishop, and he's just screwed. What are we out here? We've sacrificed no, we haven't sacrificed jack. Couple of pawns, yeah, whatever. Yeah, we've sacrificed one pawn for this killer position. Man, knight to b5, hitting the queen and the bishop to where he can play literally any move he wants. And knight takes bishop is just crushing. You know, he could even play queen to a6. Knight takes bishop. Queen takes queen. Knight takes queen. You just lose a piece. I don't see how this guy doesn't lose a piece here. Knight to b5. Where could you possibly go? I am going to take this, and there's nothing you could do about it. I'm sorry. I'm still going to take it. Except, I'm going to take it this way. Rook takes bishop. Yeah, knight takes bishop doesn't work here, but rook takes bishop does. Because what happens is when he retakes, I'm going to hit him with knight c7 check. He moves his king. I'll trade queens and then eat the rook in the corner. Rook takes bishop, pawn takes, knight takes check, king to whatever, f8 for example. Queen takes, king takes, knight eats rook. And he'll be left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns. A rook and a bishop. And I'm going to have this knight, this rook, and this bishop. wins a piece. Knight takes c7, check, in between move, crushing. I'm pretty good, baby. Superior firepower. Okay, now, once again, my friends, I have a crushing threat of an unstoppable checkmate, but is it unstoppable? I can see that it is not unstoppable already. I thought queen f6 was the move. Unfortunately, it is not. Oh, dude, I've got a better move than that. This move is stoppable here by bishop to f8. Remember, spotting the defensive moves is the key. But you see, there's a little thing I have here called queen takes knight. The rook is pinned. He can't, the rook is pinned, it's not defending this knight. So he's got a problem. He can't play bishop to d4 because queen takes rook wins. All right, so queen takes knight. I've got a double attack on his rook with mate. I also have checkmate here. So queen takes knight. He can't even check me because Kai would play rook takes queen. And then he'd take my, queen takes knight. We've sacrificed one knight because queen takes knight, queen to d1, check, rook takes queen, rook takes my queen, but I go rook to d8 and he's checkmated. You lose, buddy. I see all the moves that he's doing. Doesn't matter. I get him because I see one move further than he does. I'm going to return with rook to d8. I really had never thought I was going to get 51 in a row, like ever. I don't know, man. It looks to me crud on a stick. I wanted to play rook to d6 badly. Well, I guess I could still play it. With knight takes f6. Let's look where these. Look what we're covering. Covering these, this. Every square is covered. Hilariously, b4 threatens b5 mate. Okay. Now, knight takes f6. Looks like it threatens rook d6 check, king c7, and then knight to d5 mate. Except that the knight is there, so that's not really going to happen. I don't know, man. It's a toughie. Bishop to b5 check. Not sure if it's a good move. Bishop b5 check, king takes bishop, queen e2 check. That's a crazy sacrifice of the bishop to bring it up there to play queen to c4. Because queen to c4 would be mating, wouldn't it? If we can trade, this is one of the techniques I haven't mentioned it in quite some time, called the what if technique. What if I could trade this queen for this bishop? Isn't that just checkmate? Bishop, queen, knight, knight and queen, queen and bishop, bishop. Yeah, it's checkmate. Check, boom, check. No matter what, I don't care what move he plays, queen to c4 is mating. Looks like checkmate to me. So the what if technique is, what if I can put the queen on c4 in place of the bishop? I can. That is the what if technique, gentlemen. So you are very welcome. Well, that rook is pinning my bishop, you freak. Okay, here's the thing that jumps out at me. Look at all these jumbled to pieces, all these pins and what have you. Well, look at the pin that counts to me the most is this rook and pawn. So I have knight to g3 check. Seems awesome, right? He can't take it. He has to go king e1. And isn't queen to c1 checkmate? Isn't this just winning? Like this? I guess it is. I don't know, dude. I am like mega on fire and I don't even know what to do. Okay, look at this. Whoever set this position up set us up for unstoppable checkmate. Now, clearly, Black's goal has to be to check us in such a fashion, and he really had his chance and blew it. He could have played queen to a3 check and played queen to f8, stopping the mate, right? But he needs to check us to get to this square, or play queen to d4 would also stop it. But he's trying to cash this pawn. Like, dude, you got to worry about checkmate first. I mean, even, I say this before and I'll say it again. I go, even grandmasters do not stipulate how important king safety is enough. They have the grandmaster title commands attention. And they should be mentioning king safety, king safety, king safety, king safety. Well, I mean, I've won 53 puzzles in a row, and this is the first time I've mentioned king safety, so, I'm busting myself. So I'd like to play king to g4 to escape and to lay this checkmate on him. Problem I have with that, actually it may not be bad, is he could play queen takes rook. And I say it may not be bad because it looks like he's checkmated. Taking this rook looks like a poisoned rook. Queen g4, king g4, queen takes, king to g3. He can't check me. Look at this guy. He literally can't check me, and that means he cannot stop checkmate. He can stop it by throwing his queen away. Queen to the corner, I take it, he queens, and then I checkmate him anyway. So king to g4, the natural move, to me looks like an absolute win. I'm just trying to figure out if there's any other possible cheap shot tactic he can use to get, back to defend. I don't think there is. See, I don't like this move here of king to f4 because he's going to get a check. Actually, it's not a good check, is it? It really isn't. I think this is a trappish move of king to e2 because he's going to hit me with like queen to c4 check. This is like trapping you into stupidity. Yeah, and then he would play queen to, he's going to checkmate you if you try to guard. You can't guard the rook. The rook's unguardable. So you only have really, you're going to get checkmated if you guard the rook. In fact, he's just going to go queen to d3 check, and it's mate right there on the spot. This loses on the spot, okay? So I don't even have to think about it. That loses. That's impossible. This is impossible. You have two moves, king f4, king g4. King f4. He can check me here. And then I could go here, I guess. I don't know. Oh, no, that's not it. King f4. He would have what? E5 check? That's a dangerous. Yeah, he'd have e5 check. Look at this. If I go here, he has e5 check. I could take it, but he'd stop the mate again. We cannot allow this to transfer to an endgame. He wins the endgame. And I can't take it because he'll just skewer my king and queen. If my queen is gone, we lose. White loses. So, checkmate, impossible, impossible. Loses e5. I had figured this out already, that this was a winning move with either f3 or king g3. So either of these moves, I think, is winning. Oh, King to G3 it probably doesn't like, because you can check you again, and they'll go by the count of moves, and this wins. Allow check, so that's checkmate. That's how you figured out this 2752 problem. I had already figured out that this was probably the move. It's a poisoned rook, but I wanted to double check, and we double checked and confirmed that every other move literally lost, including King F4. So that was awesome. Well, well, well. What do we do here? I don't know. Couple of ideas, maybe. We have like queen takes bishop, pawn takes knight. F3 doesn't work, right? It stinks. He just plays king to G2 and we're smoked. What about knight to G4 doesn't do anything. Queen to E4. Queen takes E4 might be good. Do we have, oh, well, I don't know. We have you have D4, which threatens that, but I don't know, it doesn't seem very good actually. Queen takes E4 is okay. What do we sacrifice 2 pieces for this garbage? So, you know, you can't mess around here. I don't think we can let him take my knight. That's my gut reaction, is that we cannot allow bishop captures knight. Which leads us to really one move, and that's knight to G4. 2848. And 2848 is not even the highest problem I've ever beaten. It's like 3,000 and change. So, but I'm throwing together this monster performance that I'm never going to top. So, you know, get what you can get now, because you ain't getting any more, really. Queen takes bishop. It doesn't do enough. Don't have castling. Yeah, rook takes pawn doesn't do anything. Well, I guess technically rook to G5. It doesn't really do much, but it does stop knight. It does stop bishop takes knight. Problem is, he's going to play queen to G2. Bishop to G2, sorry. He's definitely going to play that move. So what if we play rook G5, bishop G2, rook takes bishop, queen takes, pawn takes rook, queen takes pawn, and then threatening to play knight to F3 check. What does that do? He would just play like king to F1. Oh, and then I would fork his queen. Well, deal. Well, that wasn't the right move, but that was a deal. Check. What does that do? It does nothing. I do have bishop to H6 threatening the knight and a checkmate. So right off the bat, I'm threatening to win a piece. Although I could just go here and threaten to checkmate him with rook F7. Yeah, this bishop takes knight's no good, because he'll just eat my knight. So if I just go rook F7, I'm threatening an unstoppable checkmate of bishop to G7. And that's the thing. You know, the concept of setting up unstoppable checkmates is kind of not reported, I don't know, underreported, less covered than it should be, underrated, understated, maybe understated is the word. But rook F7, look at this checkmate. Bishop G7 is an absolute checkmate. He'd have to take the knight, and then I would just hammer him. right? Hammer him with. Wait, do I take it with the rook? Yeah, he couldn't move his bishop if I took it with the rook. How is that not the winning move? Man, you're killing me. All right. Pawn checks. Doesn't seem right. Now, if I play queen takes queen, here's the deal. I was looking at h5. If I play h5, I'm threatening checkmate, right? Well, if I'm threatening checkmate, because every square is pawn, 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 rook, rook, and also pawn. The only thing is he played queen takes. Well, if I just take his queen, he can't take this pawn. Therefore, unstoppable checkmate. That's not unstoppable yet, but it will be. Pawn checks could be the move. No, he moves with check, that jerk. Can bishop check him. He goes to there. I check him. I'll take that. Well, I'll take this bishop. That's another possibility. I could pass him. He'll play king to b4. So if I check him, d5, I can hit him with a check first. King takes e5, rook takes, and then bishop takes. It looks like a winner to me, man. Oh, we're a rook down. Can't be winning those stupid whatever. Check. Oh, well, that's a toughie. Oh, yeah, we can win. We can get to an exchange up. Exchange down. Because we're going to win that bishop. So yes, this might work. Bishop checks, king d5. And then c4 check, king takes e5, rook takes, bishop takes, and then our pawn, the g pawn, and the bishop hold off the rook, I guess. That's pretty close. Trying to figure out if there's any other move, because bishop and pawn takes check, king to b4 is just a killer. Don't have another move besides c4 is unfortunately not working. c4, king to b4, no good. Can't stop that. Pawn takes king to b4 again. Check is a devastator. Bishop checks. King goes to there. It's got to be bishop checks, man. I don't know. It isn't? Whatever, dude. You tell me. Oh, nasty. I missed that. That was an awesome move. I was all over every part except rook takes bishop. That's the one move I did not look at. That's just crushing. Actually, that's exactly the same as my version. This is exactly, except I get in c4. Okay? So that's a terrific move. But my version is better than this. I'll show you. That's really terrible. This is what I got. Here, 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 here. Correct. Here. Now he doesn't have to take it necessarily. But see, he does take it. Okay. This is basically exactly the same thing. You don't have jack squat. Or maybe you need to take this pawn as the key. I don't know. Let's look, see. So the thing is here, here. Maybe you need to play f takes e5, and then if that's the case, well then, so be it. King takes d4. Yeah, that must be the difference. Obvious. Or pawn takes out of the way. I'm going to queen this. Oh, the difference was what? Was he closer to that? Yeah, I mean, they're like one move better than me on that, so you got me on that one. I missed that move. Well, in that sequence. Okay, so this problem, I don't know, man. My move was killer. Rook f7. You didn't like it. I saw that move. I thought rook. I thought it's inferior. Rook to d8. Yeah, that's what I thought. Now rook f7. It's the same checkmate, I guess. Okay. I did see this move, but I saw rook to d8. I didn't see that this was mate. Okay, so that's my mistake on that. But I saw that earlier. And now, Bobby, what do? Knight takes rook. Good question. Bishop takes knight. And then we play knight takes rook. He doesn't have a choice, right? You take that. Oh, that's the mate. Rook takes rook f8 is mate. Got me on that one. 2900 speaks for itself, right? Super difficult. But that was a fantastic move. I missed that move, not this one. It's rook f7 here that I missed. But I was on it, just in a different sequence. So you see how close I am to getting it. That I was on the moves, but out of sequence, which happens in tournaments as well. So this was a nasty problem, man. I have no idea. This one, I looked at that. I didn't think it was any good. Bishop takes. Why the hell don't you bishop take, dummy? Why doesn't he play bishop takes? Is what I ask. Yeah, rook takes. I'm not worried about rook take. Queen takes bishop, of course, and then knight checks. This I saw. Okay, I want to know this. Why don't you play bishop takes? Rook take. What is this? Knight to g4 is mate in 4, apparently. I just assumed he could defend that. That's why. This is where computers are awesome. Knight to g4, queen to c2. Why? Yeah, well, rook takes. Bishop to g3. Queen takes, g3 is check. Bishop g3. Okay. I literally saw rook takes h2 and I considered it. And I thought, we'll just play bishop takes and I don't have jack. Knight to g4, I didn't think it was a big deal. Apparently, it's checkmating. My mistake on that one. So, that's the problem. crushing. Yeah, because he's just getting mate. If he does nothing, he gets mated here, and if the 4 is only because the queen just throws in an extra move. It doesn't matter. This is just winning. It's the F2 mate. Okay, so that's the whole thing. My mistake. So, oops. I just thought I thought bishop takes rook. I thought bishop takes rook I thought this was just absolutely winning for white. Mistakes were made, as the saying goes. 28-79. I mean, look, you can't feel bad about missing any of these problems, okay? I certainly don't feel bad about missing. I was right on all of those problems to one degree or another. This was a fantastic sequence. 54-0, and then I missed 3, but they're all super difficult, and I was right on every one of them. Hey, man, you can't argue with that. Everybody who watches this video is going to go, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. I've only done 54-0 once. You're looking at it. So this was a tremendous exercise, I'm just telling you. Absolutely phenomenal. I'm completely thrilled with the entire thing. Even those 3 mistakes. Those are mistakes you make in tournaments. And that's my point, is that I want to point out the mistakes people can make or do make in tournaments. That one problem that took forever, because I didn't realize that I was able to interference him with that, with the bishop to e2. The bishop to e2 interference to him. It took a long time to figure that out, because it's just not the kind of obvious move. Let me look at this position. I'll tell you when I get to it. It's not too far down there. See, that problem was easy, 27-50, and I ate that one like candy. I can't say that I was below my level and blah blah blah. And I played on my level the entire time. And I would say that objectively, this is the best I've done. That can't be. That's not there. Where is this move? Why don't I see it? There it is. It was 25-86. That was a toughie, because that was the queen to c3 check, rook to d2, every other move lost. Queen to e3 check was the double exclamation, because it forces the interference on the square of e2. That is not normal chess, and you have to apply brain power. I can't even tell you how you prepare for that. It's just, I do problems, and you see games and you see great moves here and there. You learn from other great players. That's one of the tests that you get. To me, this was probably the greatest problem of them all. That was the only one that was really tough that I got. The only other, it was much harder than 25-86. It was right up there with the 3 that I missed. It was that difficult. So, yeah, I didn't play bad. I didn't, there's no excuses that I would make for this result. This was an outstanding result. I was on top of my game. And I was talking to my friend Sunday, and I told him, which today is Wednesday. So I told him, I go, look, dude, I'm 60, and I'm on the absolute top of my chess game. And it's because of all this work I've been doing on this stuff. And I'm one of the ultra rare people at my age are never at the top of their game at my age. I mean, unless you're, a much lower rated player because you retired early and decided to spend some time on chess or whatever. It just doesn't happen at the high level, okay? You don't really see higher level players maxing out at age 60. Well, if this is the max out, well, then so be it. I'm happy. I'm going to continue going. But let's be honest, 54-0, super hard to do, even though I lost the last 3, so that's okay. But this was been 2 hours, almost. My clock here shows 1:54, but my internet dropped out and I had to reconnect, so I'm going to take that out. It's probably a minute. So basically, you're looking, just, a few minutes short of 2 hours of absolute solid gold. I really don't think I could do any better than this, even though I might in the future. It just seems so bizarre to do that. Like I said, when you're 60 years old, you just don't go around whooping butt like this. This is some A caliber butt whipping. So if you watch this, thanks a lot. You're crazy, maybe crazier than me. But the thing is, there's a method to the madness. You're seeing the execution that you just don't normally see from people who aren't professional players. So I'm super happy. I can't complain. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Enjoy those things and leave me a message. I'll talk to you guys later.